C1 assessment. Get ready to test your C1 level. This quiz is at the C1 level. There are 20 questions in this quiz. You will have 10 seconds to think of the answer. Actually, guess the answer. Pause the video if you need more time. Take more time to try to guess the answer. Be an active learner. Don't wait for me to give you the answer, which is a passive learner. You learn very little as a passive learner. You learn much more if you're an active learner. Learn by making mistakes. Painful as that sounds, you learn from mistakes much more than if you get everything right just by listening. Try not to use a dictionary to get a true assessment. Keep a score on a piece of paper. Leave a comment and tell me how you did. Let's get going.
At the end of the day. 2. You can take a cat nap beside the fire, or doze off on a train, route, travel, voyage, journey. You can take a cat nap beside the fire, or doze off on a train journey. Which all describe the kind of sleep that can be at a moment's notice, intervened, interacted, interrupted, invaded. Which all describe the kind of sleep that can be interrupted at a moment's notice. A more basic expression of this is to have a little shut-eye, trend, sort, tendency, variety. A more basic expression of this sort is to have a little shut-eye. Should you wish for a little peace and, at the office, quite, still, halt, quiet. Should you wish for a little peace and quiet at the office, put a outside your door stating, "Do not disturb, having 40 winks." Notice, board, sign, tablet. Put a notice outside your door stating, "Do not disturb, having 40 winks." 40 apparently is the allowed for this kind of sleep. Major, majority, maximum, macrocosm. "40 apparently is the maximum allowed for this kind of sleep. The strange is that few people announce boldly matter, thing, point, event. The strange thing is that few people announce boldly. Well, I think I'll to sleep now. go, take, make, get. Well, I think I'll go to sleep now. More than not, as a guest, will say possible, likely, probably, possibly. More likely than not, as a guest, will say well, I think if you don't, I'll turn in now. Care, say, mind, look. Well, I think if you don't mind, I'll turn in now. At the end of the day. 3. Without offending the of your host, you could also say hostelry, hospital, hospitable, hospitality. Without offending the hospitality of your host, you could also say I think it's time for me to hit the sack, which need to be no of the softness of the mattress. Criterion, critique, criticism, critical. I think it's time for me to hit the sack, which need to be no criticism of the softness of the mattress. And very important people are not described as simply going to bed, but rather retiring for the night. Incidentally, eventually, absolutely, entirely. And incidentally, very important people are not described as simply going to bed, but rather retiring for the night. Somehow it sounds just a bit more dignity, dignified, dignity, dignitary. Somehow it just sounds a bit more dignified. Of course, should your guests be to go home to their own beds, uncertain, unclear, ungrateful, unwilling. Of course, should your guests be unwilling to go home to their own beds, and you have a strong desire to be of them and go to sleep, riddance, ridden, rid, ride. And you have a strong desire to be rid of them and go to sleep. You could be subtle and up the sitting room clock, wind, stir, turn, take. You could be subtle and wind up the sitting room clock. Look at your watch, or even yawn. Anxious, anxiety, anxiousness, anxiously. Look at your watch anxiously, or even yawn. But if you have no at all, the best thing is to drop off or nod off in the middle of the conversation. Restrictions, inhibitions, prohibitions, conditions. But if you have no inhibitions at all, the best thing is to drop off or nod off in the middle of the conversation. And if all else, go upstairs and come down again in your pajamas. Falls, fell, fails, feels. And if all else fails, go upstairs and come down again in your pajamas. Come again next week for another quiz. If you are getting a high score, leave a comment, and if I get enough requests, I can consider adding another level.